Hi, this is Bud from the Bud Rebel Show, and we have a special guest tonight. We have a gentleman named Luke Rathborne, who is an American musician from Maine, and we're happy to have you on, Luke. And we were looking forward to discuss all these exciting things in music and everything else. But before we get to that, I know it's COVID, so I want to know: are you okay with me doing the interview with the mask on? I mean, is my mask on?
It's okay to do it with the mask off.
Okay, just making sure.
If you
I know
want.
because I got the face and everything. Look, I see you got the nose. You're out of juke that way. Let me know. Let's just make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
You're safe. You feel safe. Okay, great. I got to be COVID sensitive. You know what I'm saying? And then I say 2 masks. I don't know. Anyway, let's get to the serious question.
Sure.
Shake Shack or Five Guys?
I like Shake Shack. I guess Shake Shack's available more places now. I remember in New York in Madison Square Garden waiting for Shake Shack for or not Madison Square Park. You'd have to wait like 25 minutes to get a Shake Shack burger. So it's kind of cool to just be able to get one right away,
It's very funny because they just opened up Shake Shack in my town right here, and we waited 25 minutes to get the burger.
Really?
It hasn't changed too much.
And I'm sure that line, come back in a week and there'll be no line, I'm sure.
It's exactly. Everyone's just very excited when something new comes in the market.
It is really good.
And I'm sure that's with music too. When people come out, oh, there's a new star, a new, wow, excitement in the air, right? That's what happens.
Yeah, I think so. And then they go on tour later on, and there's maybe less people, but some people just grow and grow and grow.
Yeah. By the way, before I get to your talents, you watched the Super Bowl yesterday. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I watched it. I ducked in and out because I didn't have CBS, so I watched like part of the game, and then I watched part of the halftime show.
And what do you think of the artists of the halftime show? Have you watched a lot of Super Bowls? What do you, as a musician, how do you think perform versus, let's say, Bruno Mars or Michael? I don't know how far back you go.
I saw half that halftime show.
That's enough.
And I've seen the Prince one was amazing, obviously.
Oh,
and I think everybody's comparing it to the Prince one because Prince is like the gold standard halftime show, and that Prince one is amazing. I thought that the Weeknd halftime show, I like when the camera got really close to him and he was in the Hall of Mirrors.
I got a little sick myself. I got a little nauseous then.
Yeah, well, I liked how they went and did that kind of risky maneuver with the cameras like that. I'd maybe never seen that at a halftime show, but I didn't see the whole thing. And then also I thought it was interesting that he had he's been covering his face in bandages for the past couple years or past year, and then pretending he had these cuts and stuff at award shows. So I guess on this halftime show, he actually had prosthetics on his face. So basically, if you've been watching him for the past year, he's been doing a story, and now he has this plastic surgery. And I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder what people who don't know that backstory and the whole concept, it must just look so weird. They must just be looking and being probably 75% of people who watched it are just like, does that guy have prosthetics on or something? You know what I mean?
I didn't know anything about his backstory, honestly.
Yeah, no, they were doing an art concept there. And so he had prosthetics on to look like basically his character had gone through plastic surgery, and it's in his music videos to look different. And it's commenting on, the Kardashians or something like that, And so when you see him in the Super Bowl performance, he has prosthetics on. He doesn't really look like that. It's pretty crazy. I mean, but again, I didn't see the whole thing just because I was watching it on my phone, and I got kind of, it's hard to watch something on your phone sometimes.
Yes, it is, definitely. Now, Luke, if you got the chance, they called you up, they say, you got the Super Bowl next year. Would you jump to the chance, and how would you do it? Would you do it the same thing? How would you do this whole big performance? What would you put into it?
I think that I would get guests or something, I would want to,
is that a musician?
Watching the Prince one, The Prince one was great just because you can tell it's his live show, but he
Right.
translated it over really well to that setting. So that was great. I'm just gonna grab my charger really quick.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, a lot of the artists, they say lip sync now for the Super Bowl. That's been that's been going on a lot more.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering with the weekend, like, is he lip syncing there? Sorry, I'm getting kind of close. I think he was really singing.
Right.
But I think, you know, a lot of times they mix it in, they get a backtrack behind it, and you know, they kind of do some kind of technical stuff.
I mean,
I thought that maybe he was getting tuned a little bit, like a little bit of auto tune or something like that. It doesn't really matter for his music. His music sounds kind of like, it doesn't hurt the music, you know. It sounds like you would expect it to be like that, you know.
as a musician, have you done lip syncing in any of these performances, or are you always singing live when you perform?
No, I've never done that. I think that I know, like, for instance, like when people go on that, well, they used to when they went on Top of the Pops in England, that they would make you lip sync or at least play to a track because the show didn't have the ability to let you set up your stuff because they had so many people performing each night. So there's actually kind of cool performance of Nirvana doing Smells Like Teen Spirit. And they're just clearly, they're making a joke of it because they're being told to pretend to play the instruments, and they're acting really funny, like drummers hitting stuff all over. And Kurt Cobain's like changing all the lyrics to the song to be this really silly, and he's singing in a really deep voice. So I thought that was funny. That's what that makes me think of when you mentioned that.
But I mean, like, when they say that the lip singing is like if you have it when you perform live, and all of a sudden the mic, does ever have a problem like the mic going bad or the sound going off? Do you ever have that problem when you have it, you know, you have a song and certain mind, all of a sudden things, did that ever happen when you were live on performance?
Yeah, I've had like the mic channel go out before, and then if you're lucky, there's like another mic set up for the other like somebody doing back vocals, and you can go and grab that. You know what? It's a problem that happens sometimes too, is that there can be grounding problem with the electricity, and so a mic can shock you, and that that can actually be really dangerous sometimes. I saw somebody once get a shock, so they were just on the ground laying down, and someone had to come up and you know, like make sure they were okay. But
I didn't know singing that was that dangerous. Now I learned something new.
Yeah, and sometimes people will take their guitar and they'll put the like the string and tap it to the mic just to make sure, because if it was that kind of situation, it would spark.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, you started out at the age of, I think, 17 or 16 from Maine, and then you decided to come to the Big Apple and take a big gamble. I'm sure when you first decided to do that, you weren't getting a lot of support from family, or did you get like everyone say, "Oh, Luke is going to be this big musician"? What happened? Like the support you got for doing this type of move at such a young age?
My parents were really open-minded, so yeah, like when I first came to the city, I was 18 and I had graduated high school, and I moved into this theater that had little spot. It was a theater that wasn't no longer in function, and they had rented out their theater to a bunch of different people. So it was a couple, $300 or $400 a month, and you would sleep and have a side, which is the walls they built for a theater, and they'd put a curtain around it, and that was like a cheap place to stay for like probably I was there for 4 or 5 months, and eventually I heard of a friend of a friend had a apartment open in Park Slope, so I moved to a room there, and it was more traditional apartment, but I got a really cheap start there, and I also signed up for a job at a recording studio that they had put in the description, "Don't sign up for this if you're a musician and you want to be recorded," and so I just never talked about it, and it turned out to be this guy Joey Levine, who is the singer of Yummy Yummy Yummy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he and And eventually he heard through another person working there, they gave them my CD, which was this record I made when I was 16 and 17 called After Dark. And it was kind of up his alley because it was a lot of like based off like Beatles and Beach Boys and stuff like that. And he comes from bubblegum and kind of Tin Pan Alley in New York. So he had this kind of pop style, and I think eventually I kind of got fired because he was like, I don't think you're good at working here,
Oh my gosh, it's stuff.
but I want to record your music. And so he produced me.
So wait a minute. So the studio that you work for, we initially worked for, said don't go there if you want to be a singer, and yet you
Yeah.
become the singer. So basically, we should ignore the help wanted signs and just do what the hell we want when we get to those places. That's the advice you give everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it also helps too if someone else, it was the studio manager there who had asked me for my music, and then he was listening to it and he handed it along. So it was kind of like I wasn't trying to I wasn't handing it over to him. So it kind of helped. It helped to have a layer in between us, you know.
Sure.
But he's a really nice guy, and he actually the Ramones tried to get him to produce, and he wasn't interested. And Joey Ramone named himself after Joey Levine. His name is not Joey. But yeah, a lot of people were fans of this bubblegum pop style of music, which I'm trying to think, you know, like it's almost like kind of like the Monkees or something like that, but it was the American version.
Now,
So
here's a question: when you go on
Yeah.
tour, all these wild tours that I know the '80s, I think they changed a little bit. Are they still as
Yeah.
wild as they used to be? The people go crazy. The band's just like. You have all
No,
stuff
I
that
don't
you
think
do?
so, because I think that, you know, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was looking at
Motley Crue.
yeah, I was looking at David Lee Roth because you know, when you watch a video on Facebook and then all of a sudden it's showing you all these other videos. So I at one point was watching you know, well Eddie Van Halen died recently.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of watching some of that stuff, and I got on to David Lee Roth and kind of learned about, you know, Sammy Hagar versus David Lee Roth and stuff.
Mhm.
And David Lee Roth was giving this interview of his new band. This was after Sammy Hagar, and they're showing Steve Vai is in his band, and Steve Vai is super young, and they're just showing all these people in it. You look and you think like, wow, like there's so much money involved with these tours and with these records, and so I think that probably accounted for how crazy the people went, because you know they're just getting pumped full of a bunch of money, and the kind of being encouraged to be crazy and wild, whereas nowadays it's more like the band who is wild and crazy, you know, they just kind of end up there's first off, there's not enough money to be wild and crazy like that, because but also I think people might back away from, you know, I don't know if they would have as much longevity. Like the people I see touring now that are doing it in this way that is just intended to keep it going, keep the ship going, you know. And so, you know, you're not selling records like you used to. People are being really careful, you know.
You're not just a musician, you're also a producer. You also do like songs for like commercials, am I right? For like what do you call those?
Yeah, I do I do songs for TV and film.
Wow.
So I do
Anyone
composing work as well. And that's something I got into over the past maybe 4 or 5 years. And it's really cool. Like I really enjoy doing that because, you know, in some ways, touring can be really physically difficult, you know, like for what you wouldn't think it would be, because a lot of times you're just sitting in a car, you know. It's, you know, 80% of the time you're sitting in a car or a van or sometimes a bus, and you're just sitting there, you know. You're in a car for
Yeah, but then you got to
hour
get yourself
drives, 10-hour
excited.
drives.
You got to get all excited about the whole thing again. It's like it's hard to get excited when you're sitting in the car getting up and down like that. It's a lot of up and downs, I would assume.
Yeah, and for some reason, just the travel kind of does something to your body, and
I like
you
traveling
get really
40
wiped
minutes. That's
out.
it. 40 minutes in a car. That's it. I'm wiped out. So
Yeah,
I'm not touring
but
with you.
something interesting happens where and I maintain this ability. Once you go, on these 12 or 13-hour drives, there's some drives are really long, going from, say, Vancouver to San Francisco or something like that. Those are drives you're expected to make, and sometimes they get up to 14 or 15 hours, and you're doing these, a couple times a week,
Wow.
and you start to just kind of have this different relationship to that amount of time, and I've been able to maintain that, where now I can like that flight from New York to LA, that to me is not any time at all,
That's, that's
So you
wild.
get this cool ability to kind of just
Deal with it.
go to a different zone, and some people are productive, but I've always found that some people might go into it with that intention, but a lot of people, you just end up kind of just spacing out,
Yeah. So you produce music for other people, right? And
Yeah.
you write music for other people also?
Yeah, I started writing music for other people recently,
What,
and that's something I like to do. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of different genres now, and I'm comfortable working in different genres of music.
do I any other
Um,
names that we might know that you wrote some music that you could tell us about?
I really just started writing music, and really I've been writing music for like up and coming artists, so no one that anybody would have heard of yet. But that's a new thing for me, just starting to collaborate and do stuff for different artists. It seems really cool. But yeah, like I was saying, I got kind of off track. I composed the soundtrack for this series called Strangers, which was a show made by Facebook. They had a TV network.
Wow.
So I did a season and a half of that, and I've done some small indie movies soundtracks, and that's really fun work, and it's really what I was talking about with touring. It's like you get to stay home and do that, and that can be really cool too.
You also wait, do you do like advertisement jingles and stuff? Jingles that we heard on the radio or anything like that? Is that correct?
Well, that's what Joey Levine ended up doing. The guy I was talking about. He came from yummy, yummy, yummy kind of stuff, and then went into jingles. Like he made "I'm a Nut," "Almond Joy," and "This is Budweiser," "This is beer," and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool work. He essentially told me that art was kind of being taken over by brands wanting to just get like Creedence Clearwater Revival or existing songs in their ads. So he said that kind of went out of style, but that's stuff that I've done a couple times, of just like, most of the time you're licensing your music, your songs that you made, to commercials and stuff, but every once in a while they'll want you to make something custom, and that's cool. And you know what, to be honest, if you're creative anyways, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's, depending on the person, it can be pretty straightforward what they want. They usually just want something that sounds happy.
I can imagine. I don't think you want the products to be depressing. How would you
and that's pretty much just major chords, so you come up with 4 chords and you do a couple minutes, maybe. It's also, that's what's weird about those kinds of jobs, even with TV. Sometimes you're making like 30 seconds of music.
Wow.
So
yeah.
So that could be weird too if you're used to making songs, you
have to kind of. You're watching the show. You're watching it. If you watch a show and then you hear your music in the background, but people don't notice it's your music, but you notice your music. But it puts everybody in the mood. The music's such an important element to film, the video. People don't realize it's in the background, but it brings you to that whole emotional state, and that's what the artists don't get the credit for. It's a shame sometimes.
Well, it's really cool too when something gets into a show and has an important moment in it. I had this song called "You Let Me In," and it was in a show called The Sinner. And I had a bunch of friends reach out, and they're always just kind of like, "Did I just hear one of your songs in the show?" And I watched it. it was really cool, like where it ended up in the show, and it was only a little bit, but
Right.
if you're in a certain part, a moment or scene, it can be really memorable, you know?
Sure. That one was a part. How was your music different from other artists? How would you say you're the biggest? What's your little genre or whatever your little thing you might say is different than?
I was talking to someone the other day about how when I was a teenager, I was really interested in that band, the Brian Jonestown Massacre. And what that band did was they kind of like recreated a bunch of music styles. They went through a lot of different styles of music, and they would be like, even being making fun of the names or something. Like they'd call a record like, instead of the Rolling Stones had their Satanic Majesty's Request, they would name a record the second Satanic Majesty's Request, and then make these songs that were like kind of sounded like they were on that record, but more like crappy sounding, you know, because you don't have $1 million. But what I took from that band and thought was really interesting, where it was like you can kind of do an homage to different artists, and you can do it really seriously. So even the song that I came out with recently, like it really sounds a lot like Tom Petty, but to a point where it's just like, this is weird how much it sounds like it. And I like that about that band, where they were kind of it was almost like a punk thing, where they really didn't care about taking stuff and repurposing it for a different reason. And there's something really cool about that. So I would say that occasionally, if you're going through the records, you'll be like, oh, this is a Velvet Underground song, this is this sounds like a Britpop Oasis kind of thing. And I kind of feel like I stole that from them, and that's kind of different. I always like doing that, and I still kind of do that sometimes.
What advice do you give the up and coming musician to try to make it like you did? And what do you what inspired them?
I think that well, you know, I came into the music business when it changed a lot. So they stopped selling records pretty much, and so I think that especially with the new generation of musicians, they're really smart about using social media and kind of tying, like there's no more like selling out, you know, like remember that used to be a thing of like, you know, some friends and I were talking the other day about how funny it is that one of the biggest issues that like Nirvana had was that they got so successful, you know, and they were kind of ashamed of being successful, where nowadays it's like, it's crazy to think about that like that used to be a concern, like people used to be concerned about getting successful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow. Jack, I wanted to ask you, Luke, I'm sorry. Luke, Jack's your real name, by the way. Luke,
Jack's my brother's name.
Don't tell anybody. I wanted to ask you, 10 years from now, where are we going to see you? What's going to be what's Luke's new thing going to be from 10 minutes from now?
I was thinking in 10 years, hopefully I'll be doing a lot more composing, because that seems like a job for, you can be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you know. It's something that I would enjoy doing, you know. I don't think, you know, like the Rolling Stones or whatever, those are rare exceptions, but it does, those guys are pretty old now. They're older guys.
That is crazy. Luke, I want to tell you, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you today. We've learned a lot of new things that we never would have thought about. And we want to wish you all the best. And thank you for coming to the Bud Rebel Show. All the best, and keep up the good music. All right.
Thank you so much, Bud. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.